Oh. Good morning and Hari Om from Niagara Falls. Yesterday was a special day for Chinmay Mission, for all of us. We had a farewell satsang and we had a welcome satsang for a group of students. The farewell satsang was for 9 of our young adults who are now going to the residential Vedanta course in Trinidad. It starts on November 1st, and they will be immersed in Advaita Vedanta for over 2 years. And we had a welcome satsang for 2 of our acharyas who have come back from studying for 30 months in Siddhabari, having been immersed in Advaita Vedanta for such a lengthy period of time. During these satsangs, I explained what the word Bhishma means. What does Bhishma mean? Who is Bhishma? Why is he called Bhishma? Bhishma traditionally is interpreted as terrible. Now, was Bhishmacharya a terrible being? Did he do terrible things? His mother was Mother Ganga, and that's why his original name was Devavrata. He is a expression of the Devas. And when he found out that his father was in love with a young woman, he loved his father so much, but he loved the king even more. His father was the king. And he loved the king so much, but loved the kingdom even more. And he loved the kingdom so much, but he loved the people the most. Devavrata was a people person. He loved people. And so for his father to be able to marry, he wasn't allowed to be the king. He wasn't allowed to have children. So he took up the vow to live loving the people without any distraction. We think of Bhishma as being terrible, and it's because he practiced celibacy. Bhishma means intense. Bhishma means intense, and he didn't just love people, he loved the source of people, which is Bhagavan. And to live loving Bhagavan while being such an administrator, such a leader, that's intense. Though Bhishma was never the king, he certainly was the king. All of the kingdoms flowed around him. And why I shared this during this farewell satsang and welcome satsang, studying Advaita Vedanta is great, but to live Advaita Vedanta is intense. To live with this love for our Creator. The same I'm sharing with all of us. To study Ramayana is great, but to live Ramayana is intense. We are learning about purpose. And we're learning about purpose by using the lens of Vedanta to study Ramayana, in the sense that living with Bhagavan Rama is the whole studying Ramayana part. But living for Bhagavan Rama is the Vedanta part. So living with Lord Rama happens on Sunday mornings, but to live for Lord Rama has to happen every moment past this 1 hour out of 168 hours. And as long as we don't have this purpose, we will be tossed around like a dry leaf. Sant Valmiki had shared that he wrote Ramayana to prevent people from being this dry leaf that is tossed around. And for all of us in the Northeast, we see the autumn leaves and how they're susceptible to every car, every breeze, every kick. When we don't have purpose, then we're the same way. So how? How can we live this purpose? We've now completed 5 classes in our Vedanta and Ramayana course. And I'm going to go through a summary of each of these classes so that this is clear to us. We're not in any rush. Rush is a very worldly sentiment. We have to rush to eat. Like the idea of fast food. Fast food never existed decades ago. That's a very recent phenomenon. And rushing with relationships too. Everything, we have to have our wedding fast, and we have to interact with our relatives fast. But empathy requires time, doesn't it? In our first class, our focus was egolessness. The purpose of life is to be egoless. As long as there's ego, we'll be stuck on living. But once we tune into egolessness, we tune into life. So that was the first shloka of all of Goswamiji's Ramayana, highlights egolessness. Okay, that sets the pace for the rest of our study. In our second class, we were exposed to, if we want to live egolessly, we have to learn. If we want to live egolessly, we have to learn. And I always like to joke about this. The saying, wisdom comes with age. Right? You've all heard that saying before. And what kind of people say wisdom comes with age? Old people. Old people love saying wisdom comes with age to make themselves feel good, right? But wisdom doesn't come with age. Wisdom comes from learning. From listening, from learning, from trying. So if you want to live egolessly, you have to learn. And if you have to learn, that only comes from God's grace. We have Cleveland here, Flint here, Peoria here, Portland here, Toronto here, Niagara here. And there's thousands, there's millions of people who live in these cities. Millions of people have an opportunity to learn, but only some take that up. It is God's grace that allows this to happen. And if one wants to invoke God's grace, that only comes from the Guru. So the Guru is how all this starts. The Guru leads to God's grace, which leads to learning, which leads to living egolessly, which leads to life, which is joy, independent joy. In our third class, our focus was on Satsang. Satsang changes us. More than any other experience that we have, Satsang changes us. For all of the people who are in the Moha Mudgara course on Thursday, then one of the questions one of the medical students had asked was how to find the balance of not worrying too much. And it was interesting when she asked the question because she's already presuming that some worry is okay. And don't we all feel the same way? That it's okay to worry, but we just shouldn't worry too much. Now, does worry make your body stronger? Does worry make your mind stronger? And I told her her problem is that she spends too much time with medical students. They worry too. And so she worries. And everyone thinks it's fine in this game of worry. But if you happen to meet that one person who radiates joy, who lives worry-free, then it shows us it's possible to be the same way. Satsang changes us. In our satsang, ideally, we should be learning that it's possible to live for God. That is the only purpose, actually. In our fourth class, our focus was, as you think, so you, some say are, some say become. But what Swami Shivananda shares, he says, as you think, so you develop. As you think, so you develop. And I like this word develop. Whenever we think of develop, we tend not to think of lower, we tend to think of higher. As you think, so you become. Become could be good or bad, but develop tends to be positive. And Puja Swami Shivananda was such a positive being. He was the one who gave Swami Chinmayananda his name, from Balakrishna Menon to Swami Chinmayananda. And the one aspect of Swami Shivananda that I really think about often is he was a physician in Malaysia, I believe, and he had this love for his motherland. All significant personalities have a love for their motherland. Aurobindo, Puja Swami Shivananda, Puja Swami Chinmayananda. Now you see with Puja Swami Tejramayananda, he's taken Kshetra Sannyasa. He doesn't want to leave Bharat anymore. Right? It's like a mother with her first child. She has that child with her mother because you have such love for your home. So Puja Swami Shivananda moved back to Bharat, and as he traveled through the north, he saw a lot of sadhus, people who were practicing disciplines, people who were studying, but they weren't keeping their health up. Some were older, some didn't have access to vegetables, as an example. And they were too weak to come to the clinic he set up in Rishikesh, so he actually used to walk through the jungle. And I'm not using the word forest. Many of us have forests behind our homes. And what is in our forests? Deer. Occasionally, you'll see a turkey. But these are jungles with wild animals there. And he would carry all of those sick people and bring them to his clinic, treat them there, and then carry them, if they couldn't walk, back to their kutiyas. So when he says, as you think, so you develop, he's showing that positivity, that think positive. And here's where we began to introduce Ramayana. If you keep thinking of Bhagavan Rama, if you keep thinking of peace, then you'll develop that. When Sheila and I drove to Pittsburgh and back yesterday, we were listening to her iPhone because she has a new car now, so that it can connect wirelessly. And she liked hip-hop a whole lot back in the day. And some of the music that she liked, I use that in past tense, was so bad. It was bad. There were bad songs, bad lyrics, and so on and so forth. And I told her that, the more you hear these kind of words, then it doesn't leave a positive picture in your mind, right? So as you think, so you develop. We talked about Ramayana. In our last class, our fifth, we tried to explore the difference between belief and faith and trust. Belief, faith, trust. That we're all believers, but we're all not faithful. And even fewer of us are trusting. We have to grow up from belief to faith, from faith to trust. Okay? Everyone got what we've been exposed to so far? But this is a unique subject because in all of our ashrams, we tend to study jnana, isn't it? We tend to study Srimad Bhagavad Gita. We tend to study prakarana granthas like Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha. But now we're studying Ramayana, where the focus is not on dharma, the focus is on devotion. So many of us, this doesn't fit into our puzzle. This piece doesn't work for us. So I was thinking more about these classes, and I'm going to share some tactile points with everyone on how to practice what we've studied so far. Okay? I go back to class 1. If the focus of class 1 was to be egoless, then the way to practice that is to pray. Every one of us should pray in a language that we feel. So it's not necessarily that you have to pray in Sanskrit or Telugu or in front of an altar. As long as you feel beyond yourself, then that's prayer. Swami Shardananda, who was one of our Upacharyas, he told us a great methodology for praying is to pray for others. So much of our conversations has to do with me and my. But when we consciously pray for others, we break that comfort zone. We go from finitude to bigness and finally to infinitude. Pray for others every day. And don't we do that? Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. Sarve means everyone. But we don't know what these words mean, so we don't feel these words. You pray in a language that you feel. If the second class, the focus was on to live, we have to learn we need God, to have God, we need Guru, then the practice would be remember. Remember the Guru. Whoever is guiding you, whoever inspires you, remember them. How many times I've shared with all of you, if you wouldn't do it in front of your grandparents, don't do it. See, but you have to remember your grandparents to actually change that behavior. But if I always keep my grandparents out of my mind, then I can do whatever I want. Out of sight, out of mind. So remember the Guru. In our home, we have Puja Swami Chinmayananda's daily quotes, and we have Puja Swami Tejomayananda's. So if we happen to ignore one, there's another one guiding us. And it's right on the staircase, so it's really the last thing that you see when you leave this house, or the first thing you see when you come into this house is that image and that quote. Okay? When we get onto the highway in Niagara Falls, there's a fake police car there. And every time you see that car, even if you know it's a fake police car, it still startles you for a moment to pay attention, right? Imagine remembering the Guru the same way, to be more vigilant. If class number 3 is focusing on how satsang changes us, then the practice for that is to participate. When you come to satsang, first of all, you come to satsang, which all of you have come to, and then participate in the satsang. Let your mind flow where the flow of the satsang takes you. I would suggest that you bring a notebook and you bring a pencil and you start taking notes down on what's being shared, what you're thinking about, what you're questioning, what you're reflecting on. Participate, right? In movie theaters, they're okay with people who just come to the movie, but what do they really want? People who participate in the cinema. They come early, they show people it's busy, they buy popcorn, and they play the games on the screens, and so on and so forth. Satsang too. If class number 4 was as you think, so you develop, then what should you do? Chant. The raw that I gave the last Moha Mudgara course, in the last Moha Mudgara course, was to take that day's rad and make it a raw. And that day's rad was, in essence, a devotee never complains because she is always chanting the Lord's name. A devotee never complains because she is chanting the Lord's name. And if you are chanting the Lord's name, how can you complain? That's like me eating chocolate all the time and saying the food is salty. If there's chocolate in my mouth all the time and I eat rice or roti and I'm saying the food is salty, that's not possible. So chant the Lord's name. Chant Om, chant peace, chant life, chant love. But chant this. Chant it with your mouth. Chant it through writing. Chant it with the mala. And if class 5, the focus was on growing from belief to faith to trust, then what we need to do is try. We need to try. What is courage? Courage is knowing that there's challenges and still trying. That's what courage is. Courage is lower than fearlessness. In fearlessness, there are no problems. Really, there's no challenges either because there's oneness. But in courage, I still know that there's separation. I know that there's challenges, but I try anyways. So now I've given you 5 verbs also. Pray, remember, participate, chant, try. Last week I was in Raleigh and I spoke at the University of North Carolina. Who's the most famous person to come out of the University of North Carolina? I hope you're saying me, but no. Michael Jordan is the most famous person to come out of the University of North Carolina, right? And so I had to post a quote from Michael Jordan this past week, and that quote is, Michael Jordan, some say he's the greatest athlete ever in history. I disagree, but some say that, but certainly one of the greatest basketball players. I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something, but I can't accept not trying. Once again, I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something. Agreed? But I can't accept not trying. And if you know a little bit about Michael Jordan, he actually got cut from his high school basketball team. He didn't make his high school basketball team. And here now, he makes more money not playing basketball than playing basketball, just through the impact he's left on sports culture. I'd shared that we'll study around 10 pages a week, and I'm going to give you a study plan, okay? It's not forgotten. It's somewhere in this abyss of a mind to share a study plan with you. We continue. We are on the 36th section of shlokas. Find that. One moment. Yes, I'm sorry. We're on the 36th section of shlokas, the first chopai, and I'm on page 34. I'm going to say that again. The 36th section of chopais. I'm on the first chopai in the large book. It's on page 34. Goswamiji is sharing more insights into the context of Ramayana. Because remember last week we finished saying there's 4 dialogues happening between various people. So more is shared here. Sambhu Prasad Sumati Hiya Hulasi Ramacharitra Manasa Kabi Tulasi. What Goswamiji shares here is the idea to write Ramayana is not his original idea. Who did the idea of writing Ramayana come from? Bhagavan Shiva. Bhagavan Shiva gave him the idea to write Ramayana. And if you think of this very deeply, okay, I want you to all think of your graduation picture from high school. I know, frightening, but think about it. Think about the graduation picture from your high school. Now I want you to think of a sun shining over the ocean. Okay? Now I would like for you to think of a freshly paved road and how smooth it is when you drive on that road. Okay? If you didn't have awareness, now you can stop thinking. Now Satsang will continue, so you can stop thinking. If you didn't have awareness, delete awareness from who you are, would you have known those thoughts? No. If there's no lights in this room and someone comes in and drops something and that person leaves, but I can't see what is dropped. I don't know if anything's dropped, right? But as soon as I turn the light on, I can see what was dropped, and then I can get mad at that person. If you think about this deeply, Bhagavan Shiva blesses every thought of ours, isn't it? Bhagavan Shiva is awareness. And if Bhagavan Shiva wasn't living in you, what would you be called? What's everyone's favorite asana? Shavasana, isn't it? If Shiva leaves, you become Shava. Shava means corpse. So don't just feel Goswamiji was blessed by Lord Shiva. You also are blessed by Lord Shiva. When Goswamiji had this sankalpa to write Ramayana, he wrote this in Ayodhya. This Ramayana was written in Ayodhya, and that's why Ayodhya is one of the Moksha Dwara Nagaris. If you go to Ayodhya, then you will be free. And as he's conceptualizing Ramayana, this image comes to his mind of a lake. Okay, Manasa also means lake. It also means mind. So I'm going to describe this lake to you according to Goswamiji. Okay, and it just shows us how deep thinkers are. Okay, he says the flat land is the intellect. The flat land is the intellect. The depression, the depth, some lakes are caused by a crater, so that distance is the mind. So the intellect is the land, the depth is the mind. The ocean near the lake is the Veda. Everyone's following me. So intellect, heart or mind, and then the ocean around there is the Veda. But there's still nothing in this lake, right? It's just a depression. So now how do you get that ocean water into the depression? The clouds come into the picture. The clouds are sadhus. The clouds are sadhus. And what's to be noted here is clouds take that salty water and make that water fresh through distillation, right? They make that more palatable for us. And isn't that what our sadhus do? They take these 100,000 mantras and teach us what we need. And so finally, from the clouds to the depression, rain is the glories of Bhagavan Rama. Rain is the teachings of happiness. So this is the image that Goswamiji is seeing right now of how all of the intellect and the mind and the Veda and Satsang, and finally what comes is that sweet water, which we call devotion, which we call glory, which we call stuti, vandana. And we are so fortunate we get to enjoy all of this. Now all of our Advaita Vedanta students, but who is this Bhagavan Rama? And we only believe in Brahman. When you study the surface of this lake, that's called Saguna Bhakti. That's devotion with name, with form. So when you stay at the surface, correct. That's what we're exposed to right now. But you're not supposed to just go to the surface. You have to go to the depth. Need to go to the bottom of that depression. And that's where Nirguna Bhakti comes. Where the name goes away, the form goes away. So it is not satisfactory to stay at the surface. One has to go to the bottom. But it's definitely not satisfactory to not even get to the surface. And so we're being taken there. All of you live in very flat parts of the country, of the continent. But see, we get to be exposed to such depth. Anything that you love, you want to know more about. For anyone who loves Donald Trump, you want to know more about Donald Trump, isn't it? I said if anyone loves Donald Trump, then you want to know more about Donald Trump. If you love cooking, suppose you go to someone's house, now Deepavali is coming, and you taste a really good dish, a special type of paneer is made. It's not matar paneer, it's not shahi paneer, it's not saag paneer, it's chana, almond, pumpkin paneer. Someone makes that. And you eat it. And if you love food, if you're a foodie, what is the first thing you do? How did you make this? Can you tell me how to make this? And on and on and on. And that person doesn't want to tell you, so they say it's all in my mind. I don't know how this happened. Just a little bit of this, a little bit of this, correct? Whatever you love, you want to know more about. So if you love Lord Rama, if you love happiness, then go from that surface and go deep into that. And if this is still too demanding to internalize, start, okay, I'm giving you sadhana here. Start with some sort of worldly field. Take up some part of the world that you like right now and nourish that to start to love it. If you like a certain celebrity, Sheila told me that Kareena Kapoor is pregnant now, right? If you like Kareena Kapoor, then I'm telling you to start loving Kareena Kapoor, okay? And if you observe that, you'll start reading articles about her, you'll start reading where she shops and where she lives and all of that. And if you can do that with the world, now change the direction and do it towards happiness. But that connection goes together. If you want jnana, get bhakti, isn't it? Okay. We fast forward to, where are we now? What should we study? I am on yes, okay. I'm on the 45th section of Chopais, and I'm studying the Doha. The 45th section of Chopais, I'm studying the Doha for this on page 42. And what Goswamiji says here now is, Santa kahihi asi niti prabhu, Shruti Purana Muni Gava, Hoina Bimala Bibeka Uru, Guru Sana Kiye Durava. So what Goswamiji is sharing here is that the Vedas and those people who know the Vedas, whom we call acharyas, those people, so both the Shastra and the Sadhu, you and I have to be honest with them. Okay? Remember this picture that I showed you from Goswamiji? This should be our landscape. That depression is the mind. It should be filled with the glories of happiness. And this will be possible when we are honest with ourselves. If you're not honest with yourself, you cannot be honest with another person. What are some words that come to mind when I say religion? I want you to say it out loud. Not that I can hear you, but amongst yourselves. What words come to your mind when I say religion? Did any of the groups say rehabilitation? Anyone? Okay. That's the word I want you to think about when it comes to religion. I was explaining to a young girl recently who had asked me about why should I come and study in Balavihar? And I asked her, how many people live inside of you? I like scaring little kids in a sattvic way like that. And she goes, I think one. And I told her, no, there's actually two people that live inside of you. There is who you are, which you feel right now, but then there's another person who lives inside of you, which is your potential, which is your true nature. The moment you and I realize that we're not living up to our potential, that's the day that religion becomes more real for us, where we start to rehabilitate or reconcile. This is who I am. This is who I should be. Don't we do that with our bank accounts? And we do that very strictly and without fail every month. And even if there's $1 off, we make such a big fuss of it. Now imagine your potential. Not living up to one's potential. Do we do that regularly? Do we make that a big deal? Goswamiji is sharing, you have to be honest with your guru, with the words of the guru, which is the scriptures, if you want to grow. We don't want to tell people the truth because we don't want to hear the truth. Think about it. You don't want to hear the truth about yourself, so you don't tell people the truth. But when you are ready to hear the truth about your behaviors, your thinking patterns, your decisions, your vision, when you're ready to hear, I don't think that's very good. Why didn't you do this? You should have thought about this, etc., etc. Then you will start to tell the truth also. This is another reason why people don't want satsang. Because in satsang, all we talk about is the truth. All that we're exposed to is the truth, isn't it? Bring some of your friends who are not interested in self-development to satsang. I should make that your raw, shouldn't I? Next week, you all have to bring someone who's totally not interested in self-development. These people are already perfect. They're a blessing to humanity. You should bring them next week, and if you want to see torture, that will be torture. They will feel like you have tortured them. And they may not say anything to you, but they'll keep on looking at you with such ferocity that you will feel tortured at this raw. For someone who's living a life of falsity, the truth is it burns one. And that's why Goswamiji is saying right in the beginning that we're focusing on growing, but we have to be honest. Going back to the world, if I hurt my back and I go to a chiropractor and they say, so tell me where the pain is. And I say, nowhere, I'm fine. That chiropractor is so happy, isn't it? They bill me $75 and say, go. When the pain comes, you come. But if I tell them, yes, my back hurts over here, they're also happy because they'll temporarily fix me and say, now you need to come regularly for this to go away. I'm going to try to share a sadhana on how to live this section that Goswamiji is focusing on. You know, in Christianity, they go for confessions on Sundays, correct? This is like a confession. Going to satsang is like a confession for all of us. But in Christianity, it's very private. It's very dark. You can't even see who you're making a confession to. It may just be a video camera. They may be recording you and they'll share that publicly afterwards. You too should engage in a confession in your own way. Please interpret me correctly. In your own way. But this confession shouldn't be license to do whatever you want. You make the confession. In other words, you tell the person living inside of you. The person who's living in the lower apartment in you, that person is bothering the person in the higher apartment. And so when the person in the lower apartment realizes that, they should tell the person in the higher apartment. But this confession should be with a plan. The plan being, how will I stop bothering the person in the upper apartment? In other words, how will I start to live like the person in the upper apartment? So a confession with a plan, not just a confession. Okay? In the last section we'll study today, and now our katha is about to begin. Okay, thus far we've studied almost 45 pages. No katha has come up, but it's which chapter do people tend to skip over when they study Srimad Bhagavad Gita? Chapter 1. In chapter 1, there is no teaching. The teaching in Srimad Bhagavad Gita begins with shloka 11 of chapter 2. So 47 plus 10, 57 shlokas out of 700. That's 1/15, let's say. 9% or 8-9% of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, there is no teaching. So people think, why not just skip over it? But I've taught many of you chapter 1 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. It's very important because it sets the stage for the rest of the chapters. Putting it differently, it makes us relate to Arjuna. Here, this is setting the stage that there's more to life than meets the eye. Setting the stage to bring in bhakti, to bring in purpose. I am on the 48th section of Chopais. I'm reading the first Chopai, which is on page 43. You know that saying in Disney movies, once upon a time? That they copied that from Ramcharitamanas. It's right here, okay? Ekabar, once upon a time. Treta Yuga Mahim Sambugai Kumbuja Rishi Pahi. So once upon a time, in Treta Yuga, Lord Shiva went to Kumbuja Rishi. Kumbuja Rishi is Agastya Rishi. Agastya Rishi is known to be born in a pot, so that's another name of his. And when Lord Shiva goes to Agastya Rishi, he goes there because he hears that Agastya Rishi is going to be explaining Ramayana. So Jagadishvara, the Lord of the multiverse, goes to this Rishi's home, his ashram, because he heard that Ramayana is going to be shared there. And I love how Goswamiji brings Lord Shiva's katha before Lord Rama's katha. Lord Rama's not even been mentioned once, really, in katha format, correct? But Lord Shiva has been introduced here. And the deeper message of this is that you have to have faith in Lord Shiva if you want to have faith in Lord Rama. And if you don't have faith in Lord Shiva, you can't have faith in Lord Rama. Please remember that when you make choices about your Ishtadevata, about what mandirs to support, and on and on and on. Going more deeply, Lord Shiva is the embodiment of faith. You'll see when Lord Shiva goes through 2 wives in our katha, how much faith he has in Mother Sati, that he allows her to go and come back as Mother Parvati. We'll be studying that now. Faith must come before jnana. Faith is Lord Shiva, Lord Rama is jnana. So Bhagavan Shiva is with Agastya Rishi, and Agastya Rishi, like I shared, is describing Lord Rama. But Lord Shiva didn't go by himself. He went with Mother Sati. Mother Sati is introduced here too. And Mother Sati, even on the way to Agastya Rishi's home, ashram, is questioning Lord Shiva, why are we going there? What will we do there? You know, like your kids question you on Sunday mornings, why are we going to Balavihar? Maybe one of your spouses does the same thing. You know, what are we going to do there? Mother Sati is questioning all of this. And she didn't enjoy what Agastya Rishi had to share. She didn't enjoy that katha. Now, taking this more subjectively, and then I'll leave some time for questions for anyone. I use Facebook in the morning. So this morning, if you would have went on to social media, you would have seen my posts. And I get my news from different sources. And so for a few minutes, I just go through whatever comes on my wall. And I often see people who write, 7 years ago, I married the best girl in the world. Or today is the best father's birthday. And they'll say things like that. And I just want to respond to them, and I never do. I never do because I'd get lost in Facebook. I just want to respond to them saying, no, your wife is not the best. Your father is not the best. You're wrong. They're the best for you, but they're not the best for everyone. Here, Mother Sati believes that Lord Shiva is the best. And that Lord Shiva should not be learning from a rishi. See how that ego then expands. If I can say Mother Sati as an ego, that minus then expands to the next circle. That minus is now included Lord Shiva, isn't it? So you and I have to be careful also that our ego manifests in such, I think the word is surreptitious ways, in such stealth ways that we don't even know that it's manifesting. We do that with our spouse, we do that with our kids, we do that with our home, we do that with our profession. We do that with our centers too, isn't it? Is Portland the best center? Or is Flint the best center? Or Cleveland? What if I just don't even talk about Peoria? See? See how that ego manifests like that? And these are not our centers, these are Gurudev's centers. Correct? So sadhana for this section of Goswamiji's Ramayana is, we should try having less likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes are an expression of possessiveness. I like this, I dislike this. Possessiveness is an expression of ego. And I'll be more specific. Start with food. If you get chana, paneer, pumpkin, whatever dish I had mentioned, if you get that, great. If you get khichdi, great. If you get nothing, great. Less likes and dislikes. That is how this ego, if you want to extinguish a fire, what do? Pull out the oxygen. If you want to extinguish the ego, what do? Pull out likes and dislikes.